version. It's sick. It's degenerate and sick.
Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go. But I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday night edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss, here, of course, with Russell Dobular.
Hello.
Russell Dobular is back stateside in the beautiful Crescent City of New Orleans. He is still without a microphone, though. Well, we are working to get that remedied as soon as possible, because this was the second this was the first microphone to break because of travel. The first one was just defective, but this one did not survive the trip to London. At least one of the inputs is broken, so we're working on getting that fixed. That should be fixed, if not by tomorrow, so certainly by Sunday.
Well, and I realize now, oh yeah, you're not carrying around, $30 karaoke party mics. You should probably have it in a mic case when you travel. Maybe that would be an idea.
But I mean, if it's within clothes, you would think it would still survive. I mean, it should be fine.
I would think, and that's such a weird thing to happen, for the power input to collapse into the mic, because it's brand new. It's like
it's brand new.
I think it's like less than a month old, that mic.
Yeah, but you're coming through pretty good. Back in America. So we are now once again a fully U.S.-based operation here. But we thank you all very much for being here tonight. 643 strong in the YouTube chat to start the night. Jake, our producer.
I gotta tell you, it's like I went from food hell to food heaven.
Yeah,
to go from London to New Orleans, that is like as extreme a food shift as you could get.
Indeed.
And you get some of our British friends like, oh no, you got to try this, you got to try that. Listen, you guys at one point governed 54% of the surface of the earth, and yet no one adopted your cuisine. Isn't that a hint?
Hey, I did
Doesn't
think
that
of
tell you
something, though. I did think of something though today because we had diner food for dinner tonight, and so I had a gyro with fries. And one British cultural tradition when it comes to food that I actually do like is vinegar on French fries. A little red wine vinegar on some French fries. That's good. I like it. It works.
I can see that. I can see
It
that.
works.
But given their prolonged presence as the colonial power in more than half the earth at one point the British governed 54% of the surface of the earth, and yet British restaurants aren't a thing. That says it all. Like, no matter what culture around the world, they can all agree on one thing: they did not want to keep the British cooking. They took a lot of their institutions, a lot of their music, a lot of their literature, a lot of their style of dress. Obviously, the food, nobody wanted it.
7:42 now in the chat. Beautiful. And 5:22 filing in over on Rumble. Thank you all very much for being here. So a couple of quick things. We will be monitoring the results of the Michigan primary as the night goes on. That's number one. Number two, we have 5 segments here to do, including the Michigan primaries. On YouTube, we will be switching to Rumble for the final 2 segments of the show. Once again, we'll be switching to Rumble for the final 2 segments of the show. That's dudissidents.com/Rumble. That takes you to this live stream. So once we do our first 5 segments, we'll take a 5-minute intermission while everybody gets settled in over on Rumble, and we'll be doing the final 2 segments over there. We have a segment on Aaron Bushnell that we want to do over there, and we have a segment on Jon Stewart that we want to do over there because copyright rules on YouTube do not permit us to show those clips over here. It's not that they're not legal to show, it's just that the AI on YouTube will flag it and it might get the stream taken down.
I mean, you know what we can do in cases like that, because I was just watching the Black Conservative did it with a Seth Meyers clip of Joe Biden. He just did the audio.
Yeah, you could just take the audio. But look, like we said, the importance of building up these alternative platforms is something we take very seriously. We had 4,000 of you guys over on Rumble for our post-show Q&A the other night, so that was awesome. So we're going to be doing that as we go on. And then the third piece that I want to just get to, third order of business that I want to get to before we get started, I just ask that we all take a moment of silence to mourn the passing of my great uncle, Mr. Jacob Rothschild. I think we should all just, pause for a moment.
I mean, we don't want to tell them your connection with You're just feeding their anti-Semitic paranoia.
You're right. All right. Well, I think we got about a second and a half of silence in. That's closer than I thought.
Like, how do these 2 schmucks build up an audience so fast? Oh, Rothschilds, of course.
Exactly. Well, we got a little bit. We got a second and a half silence. I guess I'll take it. All right, folks. Let's go first to the state of Michigan. Jake is in the booth. Jake, can you do me a favor and bring up those Michigan results? Early results in from Michigan. With 14% of the votes in, you have obviously Joe Biden way out in front with over 100,000 votes. But if you notice, the uncommitteds are at 20,000 votes with 14% of the vote in. Now, I told you guys last time, don't expect the uncommitteds to win or even come close to winning, but look for them to make a significant dent. Now, I got to preface this by saying there are 2 facets of the uncommitted write-in campaign. There's the PSYOP, Rashida Tlaib, Michael Moore, Our Revolution people who are saying vote in uncommitted in the primary to send a message that we're really upset, but then obviously vote for Biden in the general election anyway, right? So that's the bullshit version of the uncommitted. We shouldn't forget, though, that this uncommitted campaign started with the Abandon Biden movement, which came from Arab and Muslim leaders in and around Dearborn, Michigan. They actually do mean business. They did not mean for this to be simply a primary effort. They have an express stated goal of making Joe Biden a one-term president. Michigan is sort of the center of this effort since it has such a large Arab and Muslim population, but they are expanding this effort to swing states throughout the country. So a certain element of this, a very large element of this, is actually a real deal protest vote campaign. The second thing you have to keep in mind is Joe Biden won the state of Michigan in 2020 by 155,000 votes. So the way I see it is if the uncommitteds can reach that number or better, that would be seismic. You would feel very bad for whoever has to, wipe the shit off the floor from underneath the chairs at MSNBC later this evening, because there's going to be a lot of pants shitting and pants pissing going on there if the uncommitteds can outnumber Biden's margin of victory in 2020. Trump is winning by an average of about 5 points in the Michigan polls right now, so you have to imagine Biden has a much narrower margin of error this time than he did last time. But if those uncommitteds can hit 150,000, that would be an amazing number. 100,000 would be a very good number because Biden's highly unlikely, if he has any prayer of squeaking out Michigan, he's highly unlikely to win it by more than that. And so 100,000 uncommitted would get them pretty nervous. So right now, with 14% of the vote in, 20,339 votes. Jake, can you look at Dearborn, Michigan, which is Wayne County? That only has 117 votes in total right now. Obviously, uncommitted getting 30% of that vote. That's a very small sample size, but if you take that as a poll, like if that holds, if the uncommitteds can get 30% of Detroit and Dearborn, that's huge. That's absolutely massive. And what's even more surprising, Jake, just pick one of those northern counties at random. Because these are the more conservative, more rural areas where you don't think there'd be much of a progressive resistance. There you have Crawford County, uncommitted at 9%, 9% up there. Just look at a few more, 22% in that county. Like if they're hovering the 10% or 20% range, if they're in the teens up there, that's even pretty good for those counties. I mean, those are more rural, more conservative counties. So if they're getting any kind of numbers up there, any kind of double digits, if they're averaging double digits up there and they get between 25 and 30% in Wayne County, that should be more than enough to cross that 150,000 vote threshold. And that's going to cause some real panic. No joke.
Well, you have to remember, and this is why I have felt since it got visibility and momentum that this would wind up getting a fair amount of voters, is you're probably not just getting people trying to make a statement about a ceasefire. Whatever let's go Brandon vote there is in the Democratic Party, they're going to vote uncommitted because it gave a steam valve for everyone who wants to say fuck Joe Biden. And granted, as we have explored many times, Democrats are not the sharpest knives in the drawer. So you do not have enough of them to actually beat Joe Biden. As any party of halfway intelligent people, there would be enough of those people. But yeah, man, I mean, between the Israel-Gaza protest vote and Democrats who want to register their displeasure with Joe Biden, yeah, I mean, 25, 30%. I could definitely see it.
Yeah, I mean, Wayne County is the biggest population center, too, and it's the most likely to have the largest uncommitted vote share. So the fact that that's pretty much not in, I mean, 100 votes is basically zero. That's a very, very good sign. Jake, can you hover over the county just north of Wayne County? That is Oakland County. Thank you, my friend. That's good. I mean, that's 10,000 votes already for uncommitted in Oakland County, with only 47% in. So if they can double that, that's 20,000 votes right there before you even hit the major population center where there's going to be most of them. And then if you look at where Ann Arbor is, whatever county that's in, it's getting 22% there. That's pretty healthy with 57 in. It's looking like that was a pretty successful campaign so far, which is good. But we will monitor that as the night goes on. All right. Thank you, Jake. You can take that down. Appreciate it. All right. Peter Monahan is a new member. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that very much. That's very kind of you. Cool Blue is a Michigan resident. Thank you for covering the presidential primaries on the beautiful 72-degree date of April 27th, 2024. February. So confused. Yeah, it was warm here in New York as well today. Really warm, really nice day.
It's finally warm in New Orleans. It was freezing when I left.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know what part
freezing.
of Michigan.
And when you're staying in a house in New Orleans and it's freezing out, you cannot get that fucking house warm, man, because it's not insulated. They didn't build for that kind of weather.
Right.
If it gets down around 40 degrees, it is fucking, because I've been in 2 Airbnbs in that weather now, and it's fucking freezing.
Yeah. No, it's definitely warm in New York. Definitely a little bit warmer in the Northeast now. Cool Blue, I don't know what part of Michigan you're in, but we were expecting results to start coming in at 9 o'clock because most of Michigan is in the Eastern time zone, but I guess that other side, like not on the Mitten side, that other, like across, like in between the lakes there, that's Central time. But I remember I went to a film festival in Michigan. I had a film play at a film festival in Muskegon, which is a nice little town right on the lake on the western side of the state. And that is like the western tip of the Eastern time zone. And it was early summer. And so it was like twilight at like 10 o'clock at night. It was bizarre. It's like late at night, 10 o'clock, and the sun's not even all the way set yet because you're at the very, very edge of the Eastern time zone. But we will be keeping an eye on Michigan as the night goes on. And this should also be the first state where Trump like just absolutely dominates on the Republican side. I'm looking right here. Trump, 65-30. That's actually worse than I thought he'd be doing. But he that has already been called, obviously. Nothing to see there. Biden's been declared the winner of the Michigan primary, but we already knew that was going to happen. The question is, how many votes can that uncommitted campaign rack up?
What is Dean Phillips doing at this point?
Who knows?
What is he doing?
Yeah.
What?
Who the hell knows?
What is that?
He's gonna. Oh, by the way, we're gonna do a little fun segment on Dean Phillips tomorrow night. Patreon show tomorrow night. By the way, member stream tomorrow 8 p.m. Eastern. That will be a lot of fun for our Patreon, paid Substack, and paid Locals members. That'll be on Rumble. You guys will get that email tomorrow in the morning, or perhaps the early afternoon. But I should be able to get it together by the morning. Let's go to a sound drop. We are at 828 in the Rumble chat. Kick ass. All right, good to see you all here. All right, folks, we are going to start the evening off with some great news. Joe Biden is for a ceasefire. Kind of. Here he is, looking really statesman-like while announcing his plans.
I thought we were doing the Tyler Perry first. No?
Oh, that's right. We are doing the Tyler Perry first. Sorry, I jumped the gun on that. All right, we're going to start out with some lighter news. Never mind. We'll go to that later.
We're going to start light because, you get into genocide, you can't get into AIs.
That's right. I jumped the gun on that.
Tyler Perry's studio building project.
All right.
It's just that's a rough transition.
Yeah, that would be too tough a transition. You're right about that. All right, go ahead. Take it away.
All right. So, we've been on the AI beat from the beginning when they dropped ChatGPT with the angle, well, this is the end of Hollywood. It's the end. Because very early with ChatGPT, they started demonstrating their beta test of video where you can put in text and get video. Now, if you look at how quickly this technology is advancing, what do you need Hollywood for? The whole thing that maintains the entertainment industry, or any industry really, is the bar to entry, right? And the bar to entry is economic. If you need certain very specialized, expensive equipment to produce something, that's what creates an industry. Otherwise, there'd be no industry. People just make it in their house, right? You don't need it. That's what AI is going to do. Like, yeah, you'll still have some kind of conglomeration of very highly capitalized entertainment creators, but they'll be one among many. Just like I saw Gary from Nerdrotic talking about this. Yeah, you still have radio, right? Radio didn't go away. but it's not significant in the way that it was. So here you're seeing one of the first real examples of what AI is going to do to the whole way that this industry operates. So Tyler Perry put $800 million studio expansion on hold after seeing OpenAI's Sora. Quote, jobs are going to be lost. So this is from the Hollywood Reporter. Over the past 4 years, Tyler Perry had been planning an $800 million expansion of his studio in Atlanta, which would have added 12 sound stages to the 330-acre property. Now, however, those ambitions are on hold thanks to the rapid developments he's seeing in the realm of artificial intelligence, including OpenAI's text-to-video model, Sora, which debuted February 15th and stunned observers with its cinematic video outputs. Quote, being told that it can do all of these things is one thing, but actually seeing the capabilities, it was mind-blowing, he said in an interview with the Hollywood Reporter on Thursday, noting that his productions might not have to travel to locations or build sets with the assistance of the technology. As a business owner, Perry sees the opportunity in these developments, but as an employer, fellow actor, and filmmaker, he also wants to raise the alarm. In an interview between shoots Thursday, Perry explained his concerns about the technology's impact on labor and why he wants the industry to come together to tackle AI. Quote, there's got to be some sort of regulations in order to protect us. If not, I just don't see how we survive. Now, I'm going to get into this more at the end, but I just want to point out it's very interesting seeing an industry, and I don't have anything against Tyler Perry specifically, but it's very interesting seeing an industry that is a very PMC industry with very, with people who, if, people at the lower rungs don't have economic capital, they definitely have a certain cultural capital, right? This is not a blue collar kind of an industry. And it's very interesting seeing that industry, which is uniquely positioned to draw attention to social issues because of the visibility of the platform they have, unlike other types of labor. And they've done nothing really as an industry on the whole, but shit on people whose blue collar jobs went away.
Well, also, Tyler Perry got a little shit when he opened this studio in the first place because Georgia is famously a right-to-work state where you can't open up a strictly union shop. And so, this plea for more regulation is set against the backdrop of the fact that he opened this up in a right-to-work state. Which, that's interesting. If that's his home state, I don't know where he's from. If he has a connection to that state, it's kind of weird to say you can't open up shop there. But that is something to keep in mind when you're talking about these labor issues.
Well, somebody here is saying he got huge tax breaks, which of course
I'm sure he did. Yeah, of course.
To build something like that in the state, of course you're going to negotiate tax breaks. But I'm just pointing out, it's very interesting seeing them kind of trying to ask for the same kinds of protections that blue collar workers have asked for a very long time, and as an industry they didn't give a shit about. And if anything, through their political preferences for neoliberal politicians, have actively supported the dismantling of labor through the people that they've put into office or helped put into office. So anyway, Tyler Perry, I don't know specifically his politics, but as an industry, it's interesting seeing them crying for protection from technological changes in particular. All right, so the rest of this, I just pulled some quotes from this interview. But it is interesting because Perry is both a performer and a businessman. So he's kind of addressing it from both sides. I have been watching AI very closely and watching the advancements very closely. I was in the middle of and have been planning for the last 4 years about an $800 million expansion at the studio, which would have increased the backlot a tremendous size. We were adding 12 more sound stages. All of that is currently and indefinitely on hold because of Sora and what I'm seeing. I had gotten word over the last year or so that this was coming, but I had no idea until I saw recently the demonstrations of what it's able to do. It's shocking to me. I no longer would have to travel to locations. If I wanted to be in the snow in Colorado, it's text. If I wanted to write a scene on the moon, it's text. And this AI can generate it like nothing. If I wanted to have two people in the living room in the mountains, I don't have to build a set in the mountains. I don't have to put a set on my lot. I can sit in an office and do this with a computer, which is shocking to me. It makes me worry so much about all of the people in the business because as I was looking at it, I immediately started thinking of everyone in the industry who would be affected by this, including actors and grip and electric and transportation and sound and editors. And looking at this, I'm thinking this will touch every corner of our industry. I just used AI in 2 films that are going to be announced soon. That kept me out of makeup for hours. In post and on set, I was able to use this AI technology to avoid ever having to sit through hours of aging makeup. I think it's going
Medea
to be
goes to Mars. That's
yeah.
his AI,
Well,
AI
that's
space
it. That's
adventure.
it. He
Yeah.
wanted to do a space version,
Yeah,
but the budget was a deal breaker.
exactly.
Now, this is very interesting, and I think this is very true what he says here. I think it's going to be a major game changer because if you could spend a fraction of the cost to do a pilot that would have cost 15 million, 20 million, or even 35 million if you're looking at HBO, of course, the bottom line of those companies would be to go the route of lesser costs. So I am very, very concerned that in the near future, a lot of jobs are going to be lost. I really, really feel that very strongly. I just hope that, okay, so yes, you're not, I mean, what he says next, we'll get into it, but you're not going to be able to stop this. Because even if you did get Hollywood to sign contracts, you'll get fucking schmucks like us. We're not signing no contracts. We'll use it. How are you going to stop everybody from using this technology once it's available? So what? Hollywood are going to be the only people who are paying 20 million for a pilot. Everybody else is paying 50 cents. How they would collapse as an industry. Like that's it. That's like say that's like, and this has happened whenever you've had technological changes. It just usually impacts blue collar work, the weavers, right? You're gonna keep the weavers working when you once
Right.
you invent automatic weaving. I just hope that as people are embracing this technology and as companies are moving to reduce costs and save the bottom line, that there will be some sort of thought and some sort of compassion for humanity and the people that have worked in this industry and built careers and lives, that there's some sort of thought for them. And I think the only way to move forward in this is to galvanize it as one voice, not only in Hollywood and in this industry, but also in Congress. All right, so we're going to take a little look, and this is very primitive already. Like these guys did this a few months ago, and they are the name of this company, and apparently they also offer classes now, so they're making some money. Curious Refuge. And they do offer classes in AI filmmaking. They really made a splash doing these different interpretations of what different franchises would be like if Wes Anderson directed them. So we'll take a little look at their take on Lord of the Rings.
Our quest is clear. We must destroy the One Ring, overcome the eccentricities of our newfound fellowship, and perhaps learn the true meaning of friendship along the way. For this adventure, we'll require a walking stick, antique maps, breakfast, the Ring of Power, a pipe, a sword, and second breakfast.
Featuring an illustrious cast of Middle-earth's most distinctive inhabitants, starring Timothy Chalamet, Bill Murray, Tilda Swinton, Edward Norton, Leia Seydoux, Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Bob Balaban, Jeff Goldblum, Ben Stiller, Christoph Waltz, Willem Dafoe, and Owen Wilson. The Whimsical Fellowship is a refreshingly unique interpretation of Tolkien's timeless tale. Journey into theaters this summer, and remember, not all those who wander are lost.
Okay.
Yeah, those are pretty good. Like the Edward Norton and the Benicio del Toro renderings were like off, but the other ones were pretty damn close.
The Bill Murray was great.
The Bill Murray was spot on, and the Ben Stiller was pretty much spot on too.
So if you can do this now with AI, it throws everything out the window. Like, what do you need? Some voice actors, maybe? And for certain things, not even that. I mean, eventually you probably won't even need that. You'll be able to have the AI hit the kind of inflection you want. You'll play around with different inflections and attacks and intonations.
Well, here's the thing. Like, if you get like auteurs using it to craft movies, then you can get like the artistic writing genius of the writer. Not that Tyler Perry is a genius, but he is a writer director, right? Who'd be putting his scripts on, combined with very, very low budgets productions because they're just AI generated. The entire thing is CGI. Like, I don't think you can replicate genius with AI, like the George Carlin comedy thing.
Right.
But you can do things like this, and we might play this over on the Rumble stream because YouTube with the melody, it was a copyright issue. If we played it here, we're allowed to play it, but they would steal our money if we played it, so we didn't want to do that. But did you guys see on Twitter the Beach Boys, not Beastie Boys, the Beach Boys AI cover of Jay-Z's 99 Problems, but a Bitch Ain't One? Was great. It was brilliant. I mean, it was so good.
Well,
I got the Gap Patrol on my rap patrol. See, I sang less than 5 seconds, so I can get away with it. But it was so good.
Well, now that I saw they offer classes, I'm going to take one.
Yeah.
Because what we would do with that technology, if we know how to use it, I mean, for a channel like ours. So,
we could take the nights off.
Right.
Just program the AI.
We could just program ourselves.
Russell, here, go on there.
We'll feed in all of our emails so it can simulate our personalities.
Just don't mention Hamas or vaccines, and other than that, you're good. Yeah.
Stay safe and effective alone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, who's going to make a better comic book movie than a really precocious 13-year-old? They're gonna blow Hollywood out of the water in a lot of its own genres, and what you're really going to see a breakdown of is the gatekeeping. Like, certain sectors of Hollywood have really gone out of their way to be the arbiters of morality over the last few years, to much consternation of fans. They're not going to be able to do that. It's just going to completely fall apart because everyone's going to just be able to make a movie. I think you're always, because of the amount of capital in certain things, you're always going to have some kind of a higher end industry. But in the future, that's likely to be Apple Studios because they have money to burn. It's likely to be Netflix. It's likely to be Google having some kind of an ancillary film studio, Amazon making movies. Like, I think these tech companies are likely to be the closest thing to Hollywood left, and these old studios, they're going to die or they're going to be bought out by companies like Apple. Like, there are already rumors of Apple buying Disney.
Right. Yeah, no, it's definitely on its way. Definitely on its way. And that's definitely a signal there. That was one of the major developments in that respect so far. Jake is fielding Rumble rants, folks. So I see we got a few of those in already. We will take some of those in just a moment. John Locke, thanks for the $20. It's very generous. Just want to condemn Hamas for storing WMDs north, south, east, and west of Tikrit, taking babies out of incubators, and sinking the main and the Lusitania. Thank you, John Locke.
Thank you. Someone had to say it.
Someone had to say it, and thank you for being a responsible, civic-minded citizen. We love you, and your country thanks you. Dems are about as sharp as a bowling ball, says Janice Anderson.
You got that right.
Well, like I said, don't expect the uncommitteds to win. There was never a chance of that. I think they should be very happy if they outnumber Biden's margin of victory. That is going to cause a lot of headaches and a lot of panic. Rest in peace, Aaron Bushnell. Thank you, DD. Great show. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Anthony. And for those who are filing in a little bit late, we are switching to Rumble for the last couple segments of the night, including one on Aaron Bushnell and one on Jon Stewart. So we will be switching to Rumble probably in about an hour, a little less than an hour. That's an estimate, but final two segments will be on Rumble. What'd you do? You kicked the power cord out from under the laptop again?
This fucking keeps happening, man.
Well, keep your feet still.
It's not anywhere near my feet.
So then how does it happen?
Some people told me not to get a Dell. And I must say that's a design flaw of this computer. Like the plug, the plugs. Out? Yeah, it's not as secure as it should be.
Got it. Cool Blue, thanks for the $4.99. You're in Wayne County, Detroit. Okay, my residents will likely give uncommitted their highest percent. Yes, indeed. A Democrat cannot have that heading into the general election. Of course. And we will check back in on the Michigan results soon. Patrick Donahue over on Rumble tonight. Thanks for the $5, my friend. So Jon Stewart took the Kool-Aid, not surprisingly, though. Hope Russell is not too jet-lagged from London. No reflection on you lads. But Londoners are a lot friendlier than New Yorkers. Would Russ agree?
Yes. Everyone is friendlier than New Yorkers, though.
Yes.
I don't think I've been to a place where people are not. Well, maybe LA. Because I mean, everyone's just in their car and ignoring everybody else. But yeah, my experience with Londoners as a people, they were very nice. Like everyone was very nice, as is the stereotype. It is true. They're very polite. No, I thought the British people were awesome.
Excellent. Warren over on Rumble, that Rothschild judo move doesn't work, Keaton. We all know the secret title of this show is 1.5 Jews. I know. Joey Butterfuckface. I like that screen name. That's a good one. Hey, Russ, do you think the Biden administration's advice will be learn to code when AI replaces them like it was to the coal miners?
Well, Perry gets into that in another quote. Yeah, this isn't just Hollywood, man. It's gonna come for the architects. Right. Paralegal as a profession is going to be completely gone. I mean, so many industries are going to be wiped out by AI. I mean, this is just one that's very visible, but it's going to happen. All doctors, I mean, for a general physical, why wouldn't an AI be able to do that? Like for just basic things,
right?
These things are going to get turned over to AI.
Big Cat's Corner, thanks for the $4.99. Muskegon is the birth town. Oh, cool. I still have the T-shirt from that festival. It was in 2009. I had a film of mine get in there. Appreciate the West Michigan love from JOO Dissidents. Yeah, it was a beautiful town. Apparently, it's made a comeback since then, but I went there in May of 2009, which was 9 months after the financial crisis hit. And driving through that part of the country, because we drove from New York all through the Rust Belt up into Western Michigan. I mean, I got a front row seat to just like people in New York thought it hit them hard. No, that part of the country, and that's a huge part of why Trump won. You're driving through that area at that time, and even Muskegon was a ghost town at the time. They put the filmmakers up at this nice hotel. It's probably still there. It was a beautiful hotel, overlooking the water. They gave us a hugely discounted rate on it. That was where all the filmmakers stayed, but it was empty, and the town was empty. There was one bar. I remember a bar with a frog, or like a cartoon frog was the mascot of this bar. There was one bar in town. The movie theater was open. The hot dog stand across from the movie theater. And
Frogs are right wing.
What's that?
Frogs are right wing,
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, Pepe the Frog's bar was open.
Pepe the Frogs.
And the yacht club was open, so they had an after party there. But it was a ghost town, but beautiful town, obviously, right on the water. But I hear it's made a comeback, so that's good. Thank you for that. And God bless your hometown. All right, now we are really going to get into some bad news. We did a false start earlier. But we're going to go to Joe Biden, who apparently wants a ceasefire. And he said that he is negotiating a ceasefire in the most statesman-like fashion possible. Let's take a look at Joe Biden's big announcement that he hopes to have a ceasefire negotiated soon.
Can you give us a sense of when you think that ceasefire will start?
I hope.
About to lick the ice cream. Yeah, it's a good thing he's losing it, because that's what gave the reporter time to get the question in before he gets the ice cream into his mouth. Look at how long it takes.
No. The best thing to do with your doddering, senile president is to have him in front of the cameras gumming an ice cream cone.
Gumming an ice cream cone. Yeah, exactly.
that completely diffuses the idea that this is like an old man in a nursing home playing president.
Yeah, exactly. And look, he has his aide there really chowing down. Delicious. Yeah. All right, here we go.
When you think that ceasefire will start, sir?
Well, I hope by the beginning of the weekend. I mean, the end of the weekend. At least my national security advisor tells me that we're close. We're close. It's not done yet. And my hope is by next Monday, we'll have a ceasefire.
Okay, thank you.
By next Monday. There was a great meme that I should have bookmarked because I saw it and I lost it and I didn't bookmark it, but it's the cartoon of Joe Biden licking an ice cream cone saying, "One more week of genocide, Jack." And I should have bookmarked it. I thought it would be everywhere because it was such a great meme, so I thought I'll find it again, but no, I should have. But let's see what Benjamin Netanyahu's response to that very stern and statesman-like comment from Joe Biden was. With or without a ceasefire, Netanyahu says Israeli operation in Rafah will happen. Oh, great. From NPR. U.S. officials are signaling progress on negotiations around a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas, with White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan saying the outlines of a deal have come into shape. Speaking Sunday on CNN's State of the Union, Sullivan said that representatives from Israel, the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, who met in Paris last week, had come to, quote, an understanding among the four of them about what the basic contours of a hostage deal for temporary ceasefire would look like. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was more circumspect in an interview with Face the Nation on CBS, saying it remains unclear if a new ceasefire deal can be reached with Hamas that would bring the release of Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. He added that Hamas needed to come down to a reasonable situation, but did not offer any details on the areas of disagreement. Later in the article, in a Saturday post on X, formerly known as Twitter, Netanyahu said he's also meeting with his cabinet this week to, quote, approve the operational plans for action in Rafah, including the evacuation of the civilian population from there. Rafah, on the southern tip of Gaza Strip, is where over 1 million displaced Palestinians have been sheltering for weeks. Only a combination of military pressure and firm negotiations will lead to the release of our hostages, the elimination of Hamas, and the achievement of all the war's objectives, Netanyahu wrote. He told CBS that a military operation in Rafah is inevitable and aimed at taking out the remaining Hamas battalions that he says are still there. So let's go to Benjamin Netanyahu on Face the Nation, saying we'll either attack Rafah before the ceasefire, if the ceasefire cannot be negotiated, or if it is negotiated, it'll be temporary, and we'll hit Rafah after.
Time is of the essence here. On the issue of the hostages, as you know, time is of the essence here. So if this deal happens and there are 6 weeks of calm that go with it, does that provide an opening to end this war, or will you still go into southern Gaza, into Rafah, regardless?
Yeah, well, victory is within reach, and you can't have victory until you eliminate Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization that, once we begin the Rafah operation, the intense phase of the fighting is weeks away from completion. Not months, weeks away from completion. And that is, we've already destroyed 18 out of the 24 Hamas terrorist battalions. So we have and 4 of them are concentrated in Rafah. We can't leave the last Hamas stronghold without taking care of it. Obviously, we have to do it. But understand, too, that I've asked the Army to submit to me a double plan. First, to evacuate, to enable the evacuation of the Palestinian civilians in Gaza, and obviously, second, to destroy the remaining Hamas battalions. That gets us a real distance towards the completion of our victory. And that we're not going to give it up. If we have a deal, it'll be delayed somewhat, but it'll happen. If we don't have a deal, we'll do it anyway. It has to be done because total victory is our goal, and total victory is within reach. Not months away, weeks away, once we begin the operation.
Okay, so if I can just translate what he means, we are going to flatten Gaza and make it unlivable, whether we have to wait 6 weeks for a temporary ceasefire or not. Because the real goal is to flatten Gaza and make it unlivable, and to evacuate the civilians. Evacuate them where? He said in a previous TV interview, well, there's space to the north. We've already, quote, cleared those spaces out. Cleared those spaces out, meaning bombed them to the point where there's nothing there. So he knows that's not viable, right? I mean, there's no bombs dropping there anymore, but There's no civilization there anymore. There's nothing there. The health centers have been bombed. The universities have been bombed. A great number of the mosques have been bombed. The vast majority of residential buildings have been bombed. And so when he talks about evacuating the citizens and then completing the mission, what he means is getting the people out, leveling it, so that they could claim it for themselves once the civilians have a place to go. This is what Russell said weeks ago. He said the end game here is to create a situation where Gaza is unlivable. That will create a moral crisis where other nations will feel a responsibility to take refugees in. Israel can go in, plant their flag in the ground, and it's theirs. That's so clearly what he wants to do. That's why he says the end is in reach, and we're not going to stop until we accomplish that. So what that means, folks, is that there is no ceasefire deal that can be permanent until Israel achieves total victory, and total victory means the total devastation of Gaza.
Right.
So no talk of a ceasefire means anything, because even the ceasefire that is apparently on the table from, the fucking ice cream man there is only a 6-week ceasefire.
Okay, and this is why any talk of a two-state solution is fucking nonsense. It's nonsense. Israel has been playing this game with the world for 75 years. You can go back to 1948 internal memos saying, no, let's not engage with the United Nations. Let's just wait them out. For 75 years, their plan, and it's been a very long-term plan, has been to gradually squeeze and wring the Palestinians out of the area until finally all of the land is theirs. And this has been a tremendous opportunity. Some might say it's kind of strange that Israel, the famously efficient Israeli intelligence services, didn't know anything about this attack happening. Some might say they wanted it to happen, but we all know that the IDF and Mossad are safe and effective, so that couldn't possibly have been the case. But now Netanyahu has the pretext, one might say once in a generation pretext, to accelerate what one might call a final solution to the Palestinian problem. And then they only have the West Bank to worry about, where they continue to murder people and build their illegal settlements. And they'll just continue. This is their plan. They'll just continue to do that there until maybe they get a good enough pretext to get rid of the rest of the Palestinians there. That's the plan. From the river to the sea, they want it all to be Israel. The United States stops supporting Israel, the apartheid state of Israel is over tomorrow. It really, as Americans, we have a special responsibility to disrupt our national support for the state of Israel through whatever means we can within the bounds of the law.
And that's, obviously, for people who say a one-state solution is impossible, which a lot of people do. Well, obviously, a two-state solution is impossible as well.
Israel doesn't want one.
They've said they don't.
All talk about that is just a distraction that Israel has been using literally for generations to gum up the works.
Well, not only have they said they're not open to a Palestine. I mean, in this recent, escalation of violence, Netanyahu has said there will be no Palestinian state following this, but he's also taken it a step further. He said Israel will have security control over Gaza, which of course it does, and it did before October 7th, but he obviously means something even greater than that, just like when he said that what happens now will be unprecedented. That's how we knew a genocide was going to happen. I told you in the first broadcast we did since October 7th that a genocide was going to happen, because that's the only thing he could possibly mean when he says, well, this is going to be an unprecedented response, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That is another reason. I can't emphasize this enough. We cannot continue to allow this discussion to gravitate around a two-state solution. Israel doesn't want it. They're not interested in it. All discussion of that is to their advantage because they have just been playing for time and using that to distract for 75 years from their real project, which has always been a one-state solution. It's just a one-state solution that doesn't include any Palestinians.
Right, exactly. And that maintains and expands settlements into what little Palestinian territory there is, right? Okay, let's go. Let's see. Let me check in on Michigan. Not too much there to report on yet, so we will hold off on that. For now, Pickle the Pirate, thanks for the $5. I need to spend my whole night's wages explaining why, in my opinion, you're incorrect about AI in Hollywood. Power is distribution, not production. Can I email? Sure, yeah, dudissidents@gmail.com. That's our email. Absolutely. Tusker, thanks for the $5. Lord of the Rings AI just ran the Wes Anderson algorithm, looks like. It's interesting. This year seems to be a fairly good year for movies. I haven't seen a lot of the stuff. I saw The Holdovers last week. That was a good movie. That was a nice movie.
I had the opportunity to watch it on the plane, and I didn't.
Oh, yeah. And you didn't. You didn't watch it.
I just, what I watched on the very long flight from London? I guess we were going against the wind. It was like a fucking 10-hour flight. I watched all like old movies, like comfort food movies. I watched the Blues Brothers movie. I watched, believe it or not, I watched Rocky. Now this movie I haven't seen in a long time. I watched Repo Man.
Oh,
you ever seen Repo Man?
Yep.
Yeah, like I kicked it really old school. That like basically my movie viewing was the equivalent of putting on that old album you haven't listened to in forever. But I put on like 3 of them.
Right. All right, let's go to our supporter scroll here. Jake, you can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents and support this program if you'd like. We had some new members sign up. We have a patron exclusive stream tomorrow night at 8 p.m. That is a Rumble exclusive members only live stream, so you can get access to that show by going to patreon.com/DoDissidents. You can also go to dodissidents.substack.com or dodissidents.locals.com. Any of those 3 gets you access to our patron exclusive live stream. So we do 2 shows a month just for members. We also give members call-in access to our post-show Q&As every Sunday night. And you also get your name up in lights here on the scroll. So we try to make it as worthwhile for you as we possibly can. Our patrons, our Substackers, our Locals members are the backbone of the show. And so thank you guys very much for all of your support. Siddhartha Vicious says, can we get an AI to copy Ray Harryhausen? Yeah. Well, you can do better than that. I mean, but you probably could. You probably could. Say, I want a Ray Harryhausen monster or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Look, man, when this shit had just dropped, we gave it, not the video, just the ChatGPT. We wanted to do a bit of Henry Kissinger's painting, and we asked for one in the style of Peter Max, Kissinger and Nixon in the Oval Office. It was fucking great. It was great. Like better than what a graphic designer you asked to do that would come up with. And that's really the core of it. That's why it's going to destroy so many jobs.
Right. P. Walker, thanks for the $5. Bibi's idea of taking Hamas out involves escorted suitcases filled with cash. Yeah, indeed.
Well,
Scott George, thanks for the $5. How about the Houthis? They whacked 4 fiber optic cables in the Red Sea. Gee, I wonder why. Thank you, Scott George. Kyle of the North says, rest in peace, Aaron Bushnell. And just my opinion, thanks for that donation. It's very kind of you. Biden wants 6 weeks to fix Ukraine. Yeah, right, exactly. Needs this out of the news for that period of time. Okay, we got some Rumble rants coming in here. 6 Gen 1. I'd like to see Tyler Perry do a movie called A Talentless Overpriced Hack because the marquee would read Tyler Perry's A Talentless Overpriced. Funny. I'm pretty sure anyone in RBN will tell you Tyler Perry can go F himself. What's with you guys trying to set me up to say things I'm not supposed to say? It happened last time and happened this time,
They're
too.
playing with you. They're playing games
with you. You guys are messing
now.
with me. You guys are tempting me, tempting my eyes.
Listen, man, like Tyler Perry's just not even on my radar.
I went to see one Tyler Perry movie in the theaters. It was a Medea movie. My black friend took me. Yes, that's true. I know it sounds like I'm that sounds strange to say, but yeah. And it was a sold out screening, and everyone loved it. It was a party atmosphere in there. Like, everyone loved that movie. It was a wild time. He's very, very successful. Nero fiddle while Rome burned. Biden gums an ice cream cone while Gaza burns. Yeah, indeed. Okay. Let's go to.
All right. So you know what I should do? Because they got bugs the size of Buicks as soon as it gets warm here, and I got like the window open for the freeze. I gotta close this, or I'm gonna get eaten alive tonight. All
right.
1 second. Give me.
Okay,
1
Jake.
second.
Why don't we go to Michigan real quick? If you got that up. Beautiful. Okay. So Michigan primary update here, 21% of votes in, 29,000 votes for the uncommitteds. Can we see Wayne County, Jake? That is 2,000 votes for uncommitted with only 4% in. So if you multiply that by 25, that gives you 50,000 votes out of Wayne County. That brings you up to about 80,000 statewide. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, Jake, if it's all right, because I want to be able to do some rapid scrolling around here. Thank you, sir. So if we look at Oakland County, which is just a little bit north of Wayne County, they're at 12,000 votes there with 54% in. Macomb County, they're at 723 votes with only 8% in. That's a pretty big county as well. Let's see, Ann Arbor, coming up on 7,000 votes with 60% in, so they'll get probably another 6,000 votes out of there. Grand Rapids, 1,200 with 16% in, so they'll probably end up with about 10,000 there. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like they're going to hit that 150,000 number if I had to guess. There's 22% in at 29,000, so 29 divided by 0.22 is 145. So they're on pace now for 145,000, but Wayne County is only 4% in with 22% of the state reporting. And so it looks like they're going to hit that 150,000 vote threshold, which I think is a very, very strong showing. I think that's a very strong showing. Because like I said earlier, for those who missed it, 154,000 votes was Biden's margin of victory in Michigan in 2020. So if the uncommitteds can outnumber that, that will be a pretty good statement to have made. And I think they're going to get there based on what we're seeing so far. But we will keep you guys updated on that throughout the evening. Virtuoso, thanks to the $4.99. I heard Biden caught a brain freeze eating ice cream and then completely forgot about calling an end to a ceasefire. Such a shame. Thank you, Virtuoso. This account is pending review. Different state solution. Netanyahu, a malevolent repo man, says Kenman. Thanks for the $2.79. Appreciate that. Okay, let's go to this segment. This is a fun one. This is a classroom at the University of Texas, Dallas campus, where an executive from Lockheed Martin showed up to a lecture. And it seemed to be some sort of business economics course that he was lecturing. And let's hear the students. Let's hear what questions they had for this business leader.
You have a very impressive resume. During the 18 years that you spent working on the F-22 jets and the years since that you worked on the F-35, if you were to give an estimate, how many children do you think you've killed?
I don't even know how to answer that question, nor will I give it a shot.
Hey boss, I have a business major. Company
She wasn't the
culture
only
is a
one.
big factor when looking for internships, especially at a project manager position where you can spend most of your time working with others. What can you share about company culture and working with a team of genocide supporters and murderers?
That's another one I'm not going to answer because that's not who I work with.
And I'm just wondering, as let's say an intern working on, like as a systems engineer or a software engineer, I don't know if you'd be able to speak on this, but would you be working on a small part of those systems? Or are you working on projects with business impact? Like, would I be kind of doing like a small little side project, or would I be able to directly contribute to the murder of Palestinian children?
I really would like to know what his answer was.
Yeah, I'm sure he just brushed that off the way he did the other two. I'll kill that audio there because I don't know if that's a copyrighted song that will fuck with us. But here, I'll bring that back up, and we can take a look at what those screens says. Lockheed Martin is the world's largest military company, which manufactures, Jesus Christ, can you go any faster? Which manufactures fighter jets, attack helicopters, and missile systems that the Israeli military uses against the Palestinian people. Lockheed Martin also featured prominently as a supplier of arms during the aerial bombardment of Lebanon by Israel. The weapons have been used to attack Palestinian civilians, civilian homes, refugee camps, and infrastructure. So, look, I know people like to beat up on Gen Z, but I think they've been doing pretty damn good. I think they've been doing pretty damn good.
These kids are, this is an expression older folks like me like to use. The Gen Zers might not be familiar with it. They're based.
Yeah.
They're very based, these kids. It's complicated, like I was looking at something the other day that was they were asserting how you should really talk about a relationship and avoid misogynistic terms, and because there are so many people who have hijacked a lot of these ideas for corporate agendas that are essentially woke washing, that it's easy to miss the fact that, hey, I think a lot of these ideas are good. I think it's good that they're questioning systems of oppression and systems of racism on a very deep level. I think that's all great. Like, really, a lot of the critique really goes back to the way a lot of institutions have hijacked these ideas to hide the nature of what they're really doing, the way they've just hidden behind that agenda and kind of played a shell game. But what we're seeing now with the outbreak of this war is you've started to see these students interrogating their own universities for their investments, for what they're involved in, for what they're supporting, for what kind of work they're doing with the Defense Department. That element was always missing, and that was a big part of why it was easy to dismiss a lot of it. Oh, it's woke shit, right? And some of it is, and some of it goes too far, and some of it I think is misguided. A lot of it is counterproductive. But I think what we have seen now that something very real happened is a lot of them are in earnest and are sincere and really do want to put these ideas into action in the real world. And I don't think you've gotten a generation that would have handled a defense contractor coming into their class to pitch, I guess, careers at Lockheed Martin that way.
Right.
Since the 60s and 70s. Certainly the Xers were not my generation. We were not radical to that point. I mean, not a lot of us.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they have done quite well. I mean, they have performed quite bravely. I mean, especially in a college setting at a state university in Texas where, there could be, professional repercussions, I mean, you mentioned it in the last segment about how, you think, Israelis, vocal, Israelis, and I would say that if you're in a position of prominence, like, if you're a public figure, and you're advocating, like, Mayim Balik, whatever the fuck her name is, and you are just acting that like despicably in public as a public figure, yeah, I'm for like petitioning for them to lose their job. I don't think like a school teacher who happens to be Israeli should lose their job just for the fact that they are from a certain country. I think that would be employment discrimination. That wouldn't pass muster.
I agree.
Yeah.
But I think if you are speaking out in support of the state of Israel as it currently exists, as it's currently formed, that's essentially like you're a South African back in the during the apartheid
if you're
days,
speaking out, if you are vocal, if you're presenting yourself vocal.
I told you, didn't I talked about this on the show the other day, right? I know a harpist. So a lot of that work is with Irish and Celtic festivals, right? And I know this person has lost work recently because of their Zionist positions. Fair enough.
Oh no, that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, if you're expressing a point of view, I don't think you should just be canceled because of who you are, right? Or where you're from.
No,
right. That's
but you're hard pressed to find an Israeli that wants to dismantle the premises of Israel. There are some.
No, but I'm not just. But that's not where I'm drawing the line. I would draw the line as if you are vocally in support of what Israel's doing now.
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah.
Yes. But most of them are.
Quite a large number of them are. Yeah, absolutely. I know
we did that segment on how the anti-Netanyahu liberal Israelis all became much more committed to their Israeliness after October 7th.
Exactly.
This what's happening in Gaza has not made them say that's the last straw. It's actually made them set aside their reservations about Israel.
Yeah. No, for sure. But I mean, like I was telling you, as it pertains to these kids, they're at a state school in a pretty conservative part of a very conservative state.
Where was this? Ohio?
This was University of Texas. This was the Dallas campus of UT. And so, I mean, there could very well be a cost to talking like that, and good on them for doing that. I mean, how could you let a Lockheed Martin? I mean, what kind of sick school brings a guy like that in the first place, especially at a time like this?
For a very long time, they got away with this shit. This is what Winners Take All is about. I always recommend that book if you want to get an understanding of how elites hijacked the idealism of youth by funding departments and funding internships within universities. That book really gets into that. And that's why, because for a very long time, they've convinced idealistic students to go into consulting, to go work for these corporations. Hey, you want to change the system, you got to go to the inside, find out how it works, and then make your ideas scalable. They got totally brainwashed into the idea that the premises of neoliberal capitalism were the best outlet for their idealism.
Right, exactly. JC the third, what do you call a guy with no arms and legs in front of your door? Matt. Very nice. Nice, fun joke. Fun dad joke there. Elizabeth Marshall, tax return contribution to travel. Thank you for the $50, Elizabeth. That's very kind. I'll take cowbell for 50, Keaton. Keep it up. Rest in power, Aaron B. I'm old enough to remember the monk who did the same during NAM. Yes.
Oh, wow.
If more people in D.C. had his integrity, if only more people in D.C. had his integrity. Excuse me. Pardon me. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you for the comment and for that generous donation. Cool Blue, thanks for the $4.99. In 2020, Michigan, Biden's raw vote margin was plus 154,188. If in 2024 Trump flips 74,000 of them, he flips Michigan. I was born in Dearborn. It is my general area. Okay. All right. Cool Blue. Thank you for that. Those kids did a great in your faceism. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And you're seeing so much of that. I mean, look, Jose is part of that generation.
Of course.
So yeah, no, they're really doing some great stuff. That was the first article I wrote after October 7th. That I think a lot of the people who inculcated their generation with a lot of ideas about social justice without ever expecting them to put it into any meaningful kind of practice and to just accept kind of, side of the Starbucks cup kind of social justice. We're very shocked to see them take it seriously after October 7th. None more so than myself, to be honest with you.
Right. The Vulture Vanity Show Act Up members were based AF and were largely Gen Xers. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not saying we didn't have activists in Gen X. It was also very different times. Everyone was fat and happy, right? I mean, how activist are you going to be? How much are you going to look under the hood under those circumstances?
Right. Okay. Let's take a look here. Typical Rocket, thanks for the $5. Tropical Rocket, sorry. I'm going to put a pineapple on your pizza, Russ. Well, with a name like Tropical Rocket, I believe you. Miriam Adelson is Netanyahu's prime donor. Haim Saban is Biden's prime donor. Adelson and Saban are friends and both radical Zionists. Russell is correct. Genocide is the goal of the donors. Well, yeah, that is the war plan.
If I'm not mistaken, Saban is a Hollywood figure, right? Because when I went to the Academy Museum, I think when I went in there in LA, like Saban there's a whole plaque about Saban being like the principal donor to the museum. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's who it was.
Interesting. Mark, the MIC is developing AI weapons systems so they won't need the public and will be able to subjugate citizenry without threat of military non-compliance. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Cool Blue, correcting his math for $2. That's all right, Cool Blue. Math correction, plus 77,000 of the 154 in Michigan. All right, thank you, Cool Blue. We'll go to the Michigan results before the Rumble switch, which, by the way, folks, if you are joining in progress, we will be switching to Rumble after this last segment. Here's Jake putting up some Michigan results right now with 25% of the vote in. We are at 33,000 votes. Jake, check Wayne County for me, please. Wayne County's still at only 4%. Yeah, they're very, very slow to count votes. They're always kind of slow to count votes. Cool Blue can probably testify to that for another $1.99. Just kidding. Yeah, that's not surprising that those votes are coming in slow. But yeah, they're doing very well. They're doing very well. It seems like it was a very successful campaign. But we'll check in on that once before we leave. So Jake, we could take that down for now. Thank you. Beautiful. Okay, folks. Here is a segment that came across our viewpoints late last night when Brianna Joy Gray published some of her mostly paywalled interview with Dr. and presidential candidate Cornel West. Here is Cornel West addressing some of the backlash that he got specifically.
We decided the best way we can show our solidarity with Brother West is to compete with RBN's coverage of the same subject.
Yeah, they ended up going on tonight. It's funny. I talked to Nick about this. We actually talked on the phone about our time slots overlapping because I told Nick, I said, I'm in a bind. I don't really know where to go because we can't do Monday, Wednesday, Friday anymore, but we can't do a day show on Tuesday because we have a day show on Thursday. What should we do? And we both just kind of decided it was okay if we went on the same time Tuesday nights. He said, it's fine with me if it's fine with you. I said, all right. I mean, if we both got to go Tuesday nights, that'll be the way it is. So it's fine with me. And if it's fine with him, then that's cool. But yeah, as it turns out, they're covering this on their channel right now. Just one of those days. But Cornel West appeared on Brianna Joy Gray's Bad Faith podcast to discuss the backlash that he received to his Alexei Navalny tweet, amongst a couple other things. And he is talking, of course, about our friends over at RBN when he makes a lot of these comments. So we picked about 4 minutes that we're going to focus in on, where he touches on a few things. So let's get started with some of this video.
I read this piece, or I was told about it. When I was told about it, well, I'm praying for the family, and then here's, people saying, well, he's giving a eulogy, as if he's giving a eulogy for a Nazi, because people saying sometimes he's a Nazi supervisor. I'm walking.
Okay, all right. We're not going to pause it every 15 seconds, but now that you have the context of that, I want to play this first part again.
When I read this piece, or I was told about it. When I was told about it, well, I'm praying for the family. And then here's
when I read this piece or when I was told about it. Now, I don't know if he's talking about whether he read Nick's tweet or whether we read that Navalny had passed away, because it sounds to me like you said when I read the news of Navalny having passing, or rather when I was told about it. And then after that, I had people come up to me and say I had just eulogized a Nazi. Right there, that says to me what I always suspected, which is that he just didn't know who Navalny was before he tweeted that out. Now, if you don't know who Navalny is before you tweet that out, if you're running for president as a left-wing rebel candidate,
and even you're a major public figure
running for office as a left alternative, you might want to not tweet anything out until you do a little research, right? But if your impulses get the best of you and you tweet that out, and you're called out for it, why not either take the tweet down or post a reply saying, hey, I didn't realize at the time I wrote this that I didn't know everything I would have needed to know before writing this. At that point, you'd really have not much of an issue. Of course, Ivy League professor doesn't like being called out by working class black men like Nick and CJ. I think that's it. It's a class thing, right? He's a credentialed professor. Who are these guys? Nick talks about how he's a college dropout. I don't know about CJ, but Nick mentions that a lot about himself because he's self-taught and he's a brilliant guy. But he doesn't have the credentials to be challenging him on this point. That's the way a lot of his response played, including this.
Well. Not only that, I mean, and this plays out over the course of all of this. The shit that he's saying doesn't really make any sense. It's a lot of double talk. It's a lot of high dudgeon, as you point out. You're conceding that you didn't know who he was. Well, our friend Nick has coined a phrase, or he's fond of a phrase that would apply here. You're deeply unserious if you did not know who that was and you're tweeting out something like that. And then his excuse, which we'll get to, is absurd. His excuse for placing him in the company that he did.
People saying, well, he's giving a eulogy, as if he's giving a eulogy for a Nazi, because people saying sometimes he's a Nazi supervisor. I'm walking down the street, the brother walks up to me and said, Brother West, I didn't know you were a Nazi sympathizer. I said, what you mean, Nazi sympathizer? I'm going down to Charlottesville, put life on the line against these gangsters. What are you talking about? Well, people are writing on the internet, and particular individuals talking about you eulogize a Nazi and you praise another Nazi. But see, this kind of pettiness for me simply is it just shows a deep problem. It's a spiritual problem. It's a moral problem, and it has to be addressed explicitly. And of course, it's a whole little slice of the left. It's not the broad left, but it's part of a left that has been so neglected and so disrespected that they primarily look for put down in order to get various kinds of clicks and various kinds of markets. And so the independent media, Paul Street, who I think is...
Okay, we got to pause it right there. They look for put downs. You're talking about the RBN guys who had you on as a recurring guest. They were very excited, as was I, when you decided to run as a Green Party candidate. They were all about it. They had you on at regular intervals. We had nothing but good things to say early on. I liked that you announced on MPP's line. I didn't love that you chose an organization with no real infrastructure, no real ballot access, but I said fuck it, I'd rather have him in than out. But then when you switched to the Greens, we thought, okay, here's an opportunity. We felt that way. RBN felt that way. Jimmy Dore, I know for a fact, felt that way. He said so on his show. He's told me in conversations offline he was reaching out to your team to try and advise the campaign. You guys didn't want anything to do with him, right? So people didn't come at you for clicks. For clicks, they had you on regularly. What are you talking about?
People were prepared to support him.
Right.
I mean, it was an interesting thing because we amongst ourselves were trying to figure out what that meant, right? Like we were at that stage. Like what are the journalistic ethics involved here? But yeah, no, I mean we were pretty much all ready to support Cornel West, and the more we saw of him, the worse it got. This overall critique, all right, we always want to be fair on this show, so I'm gonna be nuanced about it. All right, so first of all, my overall thing about whenever people in this space get accused of that, I always say the same thing. If you think that this, even Jimmy, who's much bigger and more successful than us or RBN, even what he's doing, that is not the way to take advantage of the algorithms. If you want to do well in this space and never worry that YouTube is going to turn around one day and just shut you down, you do a Pod Save America kind of show. That's the grift. That's the way to grift. You never hear motherfuckers like Cornel West talking about shows like that. Like you want to attack somebody, talk about these libs who,
Right.
In the end are going to talk about you as a spoiler. They're going to talk about Jill Stein as a spoiler. But that's the way to make money because, first of all, you got a lot of those libs on YouTube. And YouTube's algorithm is not going to work against you if those are your politics. And here's where the real sweet money comes in. If you're doing that, you can get in on that super PAC money. You can get in on that donor money. You can get those people to start supporting you. That's the grift. That's the place to go. So anybody who chooses to do this, I mean, they're either a really stupid motherfucker if they're on the grift, or they actually believe in what they're doing, because there's very little upside to choosing to go this way rather than that way if you're just in it to try to make money and get a lot of subscribers. So that's just a stupid thing altogether. Now, does the algorithm encourage conflict? It absolutely does. Absolutely. And, we all know that. And it's not just the algorithm. I mean, it's human nature. How do our union videos do, Keaton? How do our union videos?
Well, of course. Well, it's not only that. I mean, that's why movies and plays and literature, that's why they are built around conflict. What's the first thing you learn in any kind of dramatic writing course or any kind of study of film or theater? Essential to any entertainment media is conflict. If there's no conflict, there's no play, there's no story, right? So obviously conflict gets eyeballs. But before we go elaborate on that, I want to play a little more because this is where he gets into that even more in detail.
One of the most insightful writers around, alongside Brother Chris Hedges and others, that it's clear that the independent media is not that independent. Put it that way. It's dependent on market. And by being dependent on market, you're looking for various clicks, you're looking for eyeballs, you're looking for views.
Yeah, see, this is where he says, okay, asshole, everything is dependent on markets. Everything is dependent on markets. This is a capitalist society. It's a market-based society. What, Princeton University isn't dependent on markets? Here's a guy who makes very good money lecturing at Ivy League universities. which cost a lot of money. Tuition and room and board at Princeton's like $57,000 a year. There's no market incentive for the students to go there. It's all market incentive. So what? You're not on that grift. You're not on a market-based grift, but what? A YouTube channel which takes in a couple $100 in super chats per show. They're the grifters. Like it's ludicrous. It's such a ridiculous charge. Yes, people in media need audiences to sustain their media projects. Is that news? Is that a scandal? I mean, like, that's just such a ridiculous thing to say.
Well, and also, as you could see just from what we were recently able to do, if your objectives are really you want to draw attention to injustice and causes, the more people watch you, the more you can do that. We just covered the Assange hearings.
Right.
That could not have been done if the channel were not successful. We were able to do that because people donated so that we could do that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a question of how you use it and what you do with it. Now, his real exception is that they took exception to him.
Exactly.
And he's not man enough to address it on that level, so he's got to address it on this very slimy level, where he's attacking, as you say, lower class. I mean, everybody in this space, we're all making nickels and dimes compared to what you're making.
Right. You're lecturing at Princeton.
But you're not a grifter, right?
You're lecturing at Princeton where the kids are paying $50,000 a year to go so that they can get a good job in a capitalist society when they leave. So you're less on the take than we are? It's absurd.
This is
that's not an indictment of you. Look, go, teach, go, say your shit, for 45 minutes a day for however much money they pay you to do it. That's fine. Everybody's got to eat. I'm not giving you grief for that. But as Russell just said, you're not big enough to actually address their points on the merits. And so you basically say that they are just generating fake outrage for clicks and for money, and because they have to stay in good standing with Jimmy Dore, who gave you a tough interview.
Well, and on that level, look, and Nick and CJ when they came on when I was hosting made this point. Hey, they don't agree with Jimmy on everything, and they've had open disagreements. But
sure,
then,
of course,
you have certain not very bright Beavis and Butthead people who shall remain nameless took that to mean, oh, there's a big falling out. Meanwhile, I'm like, yo, Jimmy, can I have Nick and CJ on? Oh yeah, sure. So that, and they pointed out when they were on the show, who else is helping small independent creators? Crystal and Kyle aren't doing
and highlighting the mutual aid work.
Highlighting the mutual aid work. Who else is doing that? Who's helping Jose with his campaign? Who?
Right.
So
Kyle did a smear piece on Jose. Well, he's a LaRouche. He's not. He mentioned Tulsi Gabbard, so he can't possibly be anti-war. That was his take, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then you're going to criticize Jimmy Dore, who's the only person who's actually not acting like a grifter. Because all these people, hey man, you're in this independent media, you talk about independent media, then you're going to go on, as Crystal did, and talk about Marianne's campaign as a serious bid for power, and obliquely slam RBN as not being serious because
mature.
They're not getting behind fucking Marianne.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the serious move, to get on board with fucking Marianne. Those are the grifters. Look, having dealt with Jimmy personally, I can tell you, you could agree with him, not agree with him, love him, hate him. Every word you hear him say on that show, that's who he is. That's the real guy. You hang out at dinner with Jimmy, it's pretty much how he talks.
Very obvious. Yeah, when I had a meal with him in New York, very obvious within 5 minutes sitting down. Because, not everybody is like they are on camera.
Right.
Like, I had lunch with Andrew Yang once a while back because my friend used to work for him. And not a knock. I mean, he was a perfectly nice guy, but he's very different off camera than he is on. On camera, he's very bright and bubbly and smiley. And off camera, he's kind of quiet and reserved. And I mean, he's fine. He's not an asshole or anything, but he's different. Jimmy's the exact same. It's like being on his show when you're sitting across the table. I mean, the exact same. And so there's no question in my mind that he means everything he says. And there's no question in my mind, I happen to know this for a fact, I'm not just taking his word for it. He reached out to your campaign to give you offline private advice. And the Greens didn't want anything to do with it, which is part of why that was as tense an interview as it was. All right, let's go back to the video.
Realities of the suffering that Brother Aaron's sacrifice highlights is subordinate to the put downs and the trashings and the takedowns that give you attention. And this goes all the way back to Brother Jimmy Dore. I've talked about that in terms of the Jimmy Dore plantation and the folk on his plantation.
Amazing that you would go back there. See, when he mentioned that line on the Tim Black thing, I thought maybe it was in the heat of the moment. Maybe he just said that and then, didn't really think through what he was saying. To actually consciously repeat that again.
No, and you know what, man? This is something we're not really qualified to interrogate, but I will just point out that kind of shit. That's about the deepest insult that one black person can give another. He's basically calling them Uncle Toms.
Well, I said this I got into this on Nick's show with him, and I told Nick at the time, because I was on Nick at Night last week. I said, yeah, I don't know how much it's my place to chime in on this. And he said, go ahead. But I said, that's an ugly thing to say about Jimmy, but it's an even uglier thing to say about you and CJ. It's a really ugly thing to say, especially coming from a Princeton University lecturer, right? Because you're directing that at other black men who like I said, I don't know CJ's background as well, but Nick talks very openly about the fact that he is a college dropout, right? And a working guy. Like, to say that, that is a very classist and elitist thing to say. And it's a really ugly thing to say. It's an ugly thing to say once. It's an ugly thing to repeat. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to let that slip. It's another thing to be like, no, actually, that line, Jimmy Dore Plantation, that's a good one. I'm going to use that over and over again when talking about the people who gave me a regular platform on their show to promote my campaign. So what, you didn't think any of this about them then when they were on your side, but when they critiqued you substantively, rather than just address that, or God forbid, take the L. Hey, my bad. I shouldn't have tweeted that. I'll either take it down or I'll apologize. Rather than do that, you do this over and over again now? Make repeated horrible insults at the people who reached out to you to help your campaign in the early days?
Yeah, and even if you disagree with them or you're having a disagreement, to go there, he's really revealing over the course of this campaign, as often happens when people run for president, it's the worst thing for their image, because anybody who's done it will tell you it's like being under an X-ray. It exposes you, right? And he has not benefited from being exposed in that way. He has demonstrated he's a real fucking piece of shit. Because, hey, man, not to, I'm not saying we're low, but, we're not where he is. I mean, that is really punching down to take a couple guys with a small YouTube channel and start piling on them by name like that because you didn't like what they said. He's revealing his basic lack of character. Like that's not a man.
Yeah, no, they didn't call him a name. They didn't call him a name. Their original response to his tweet was all substantive.
Well, their critiques are always substantive. And I would point out, just to put a button on the, for click stuff, we were talking about it earlier offline, how, we don't do a lot of the online gossip shit. And our rule has long been, if we cover that, it only in a case where it illuminates something worth talking about. That's why we never did the fucking Vosh porn horse, whatever the fuck it was. I didn't even pay. I honestly, I don't even really know. I know what happened, but I don't even know what was in it. What, because I don't care. Like, it doesn't shed light on anything bigger than that. than this person's moral failing. So who cares? We never did any of the Oliemi shit or the Illuminati or whatever the fuck happened there. Who cares, right? But sure, we'll cover it if there's a point, and that's true of RBN too. Like, go find me an RBN video about some stupid shit that has no point,
right?
In that arena, right? I mean, you're going to cover these kinds of controversies. Anybody in journalism does. It's fine as long as there's a point to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't really put white supremacy at the center. That's been part of my critique of the Green Party, right? Green Party got some of the best people in the world in terms of people who have a longevity of struggle for justice, but there'll never be a left that doesn't put white supremacy and empire at the center. And the Green Party's never ever done that. And so therefore, that was one of the reasons why I couldn't stay. Now, there's also personal reasons why, in terms of my own relations, Jill Stein, and I saw her up close, and what I saw I didn't like, and therefore there was no way I could be able to follow through in that regard. And that's tip of the iceberg. I'm not going to get into all the details and what have you. Of course, same is true with Brother Peter too. Sister Jill and Brother Peter saw him up close, didn't like what.
And I just want to point out, nothing says man of the people like the Klimt and the Rembrandt in the background. I believe that's definitely a Klimt.
Yeah, it's a Klimt.
I think the other one's a Rembrandt.
I saw kept on moving. How come? Because I got one life to live. No, Sister Brianna, I got to focus on the people. I got to focus on how do you deal with the suffering. I had to focus on how we proceed. And the founding of the party was a matter, as you know, we already got Alaska. We got Oregon. We just got United Citizens, the all-black party, South Carolina with the Nullums, magnificent folk, on the way to Utah and Nebraska, and the other states have yet to fully open. Meaning what? On the move. Some states, you have to have a party in order to keep the signatures down to 5,000. If you're independent, it could be 25,000. So we're moving again, jazz-like, improvisational, from state to state. One state I can be independent with 5, don't need the party. Another state, if I have a party, I can take it down to 5. Alaska, it was a Aurora party. Oregon, it was a progressive party. Each one of them putting me on. Peace and Freedom Party in California now. I'm part of their nomination process. I'm trying to get on the ballot the best way I can.
I don't think you're going to get on the ballot in California because Claudia de la Cruz is highly favored to win that. That's a primary for their ballot line there. And even if you do win that nomination, you'd be kicking her off the ballot there, which is not a great thing to do, especially when you were on the Green Party ballot line. You had it. You had everything you needed. So all of that is just work that you're forced to do now. The calendar's about to turn to March. Again, this is not early anymore. Right? A lot has to come together in a very short period of time. The other point about how the Greens won't let me center white supremacy, I've heard Ajamu Baraka talk about white supremacy plenty. The idea that that was somehow off limits seems like an excuse. And most importantly there, the personal drama with Jill Stein and Peter Dow, that stuff is stuff that he doesn't really get into. Now, we have a source here at the New Dissidents podcast who hooked us up with the paywalled version of this, so we watched the whole thing. And towards the end of it, again, he doesn't really say exactly what happened, which Bree rightfully points out is a little disingenuous. Like, if you're going to say, I no longer have faith in them as people, Peter and I didn't get along, Jill Stein, I don't respect her anymore, you should probably say what happened. It sounds to me like what he thinks happened is that Jill Stein wanted to run this year, and that when Chris Hedges sort of got him in with the Green Party, that fucked up Jill Stein's plan. And his theory is that Jill Stein introduced him to Peter Dow so that things would go sideways, he would leave, and Jill Stein could be the nominee. And then he points out that Peter Dow ended up working for Jill Stein for a period of time. Now, that all might be true. Even if it is, it's none of our fucking business. It's not our problem. You were in a unique position to bring name identity, respect, and star power to a third party where you started off polling at 6%. That was the first poll that had you registered at 6 points. There was potential there when you were on that ballot line. If you're running for president, it's not about you having one life to live. It's a public service job. You have a responsibility to the movement to work it the fuck out, whatever it is, and stay in a position to get you as much ballot access as possible with as big a chance to, if not win the presidency, make as big an impact on Election Day as possible. That is your responsibility to do that. And it's a responsibility that you apparently never took all that seriously, as evidenced by every decision you made since you launched the campaign, and especially evident after you left the Greens. That's when people started losing faith in your campaign, because you sacrificed ballot access in 17 states from jump and almost certainly over 40 states in November. Once you do that, you signal this is not a serious campaign. Once you do that, it's pretty much exposed that this is over. This is over as a project worth backing. Nick Cruz said to Marianne Williamson, why should working people invest millions of dollars in your campaign when we invested $100 million in the Sanders campaign and have fuck all to show for it? And so those are just excuses. I'm not interested in what happened between you and the Green Party. I'm sure the Green Party are fucking difficult as hell to deal with. I have no doubt that you're right about that. But it's your job to make it happen. Make it the fuck happen. You know, this, you know, what is it? Money talks, bullshit walks. Coffee is for closers only. Come on. If you're going to do this, do it.
You know, it's funny. I just watched Repo Man because probably one of the most famous speeches in that movie is about the matrix of coincidence. Right. That is the second time that's come up for me today. The Glenn Ross coffee is for closers line.
Yeah.
It's somebody says shrimp and then someone says plate of shrimp. No one can explain it. Yeah, Cornel just likes the idea of running for president, and he doesn't want to take any responsibility for the choices that he's made. Okay, kindest possible interpretation. You're dumb about running for president. You're completely incompetent, and you're a poor vessel for this project. That's the kindest interpretation you can put on it. Your ego is too big to take very valid criticism, and you didn't include this, and I wish you had. There's the whole thing about where he's trying to explain why he lumped Navalny with all of these black radical leaders, and his explanation is fucking moronic. First, he's saying that it's about the mourning family. He's saying, well, of course, I feel bad I was saying something about the family, mourning for the family. Didn't even make any sense. And then he made that crazy lib argument that I actually went back and forth with somebody, but I thought this person was uniquely moronic. But apparently this is a very common lib take because Cornel had it too. The idea that he died for his principle. How do you respond to the idea that the person was a fucking white nationalist Nazi he died for what he believed in, though? Like that was what he argued. He said it's you don't have to agree with the person, but they died for what they believed in. You could say that about the people at Jonestown. Do you admire the people at Jonestown?
Yes. Right.
Like you could say that about some of the most horrific people in history, that they died for what they believed in. That is not a standard. That's meaningless. If you're divorcing he's saying, well, you have to say that they have courage. Bill Maher got taken off the air for saying that about the 9/11 hijackers.
Right. Exactly.
He said, well, you can't say that they don't have courage.
Right.
You can't say that they're cowards. Okay, I'll even grant you that. But are you saying that what they were brave on behalf of is completely irrelevant to the conversation? Really? And you're supposed to be regarded as some kind of a moral person whose rhetoric and oratory is to be respected and followed and admired and listened to, and you're making that kind of a formulation that it's admirable to die for what you believe in, no matter what it is. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, that part of it, I just
the Nazis in the bunker died for what they believed in.
Yeah, I mean, look, those are just excuses for the fact that he didn't look into it before he posted it, because he just took CNN's word for it. He took liberal media's word for it, because those are the sources that he ultimately looks to, in examples like this. Right.
Well, and that's where I say he showed in this whole thing.
Exactly.
He's not a man. He was not able to man up and take valid criticism. He tap dances through with a lot of bullshit excuses, and then punches down on working class men with a small YouTube channel. Ultimately, a small channel. We all have small channels. I mean, these are nothing. These are nothing. You want to see a big channel? Go watch the live counts on Critical Drinker. The fucking guy has
the movie channels, yeah.
The movie channel. The guy has like 15,000 fucking people to start. Right. It just builds from there. So these are all tiny little channels compared to a lot of the other channels, even in our own space. Like Jimmy. He's got fucking 1.3 million. So you're gonna fucking punch down like that at fucking small YouTube channels and start talking about grifting with fucking nickels and dimes, amounts of money in a month that you make in a fucking speech. If that, you're gonna start bitching about like, oh yeah, no, there's fucking rivers of money here. He's just, the more you see of him, the less there is to like. That's why I say running for president, everybody liked him. He ran for president, and he's showing this whole thing. He just showed what a fucking, fundamentally petty fucking asshole he actually is, to even frame it this way.
Yeah. And look, it's a nasty business. I mean, running for office, it's a nasty business. It'll bring those things out of you if there's stuff there to be brought out of you.
Just fucking apologize, man. Just be like, hey, yeah, I didn't really know everything about him. Which
I should have looked into it more. Sorry, I took it down.
That's all.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's all. Even fucking RFK did that for the wrong reasons, obviously. But when he defended Roger Waters because he didn't know what was in Roger Waters' biography, and then they said, "Hey, actually, Roger Waters is not a sadistic murderous Zionist." Oh, okay, in that case, sorry, I should have said anything. Right? I mean, he took it back for a scumbag reason.
You do a very good RFK. It's like a spot on.
All right, folks. Jake, why don't we put some Michigan results up on the board while I read these super chats, and then we're going to switch to Rumble. All right, 40,000 for the uncommitted with 31% in. Show me Wayne County there. Last I checked, it was still at 4%. Yeah, see, extremely slow to count Wayne County. So, yeah, they're going to crack 150. I can't imagine they won't. I mean, if Wayne County is only 4% in with 20,000 votes, with 2,000 votes, that means they're going to get, at that pace, they'll get about 50,000 there. That'll get them to 90. All right, so let's see some other places. Yeah, Macomb County. Go to Macomb County, Jake. That's up and to the right. Yep, there it is. Beautiful. Good job. Look at that. That's only 19% in with 1,700. So that will give you about another 7,000 or 8,000. So that puts you out in the neighborhood of 100. So, yeah, there seems to be quite a lot of vote left. I'm scrolling around here. Quite a few counties with only 30-50% reporting. So they'll at least hit the 100,000. Hopefully they crack 150, but it looks like 100 is pretty easily done. So quite the strong showing there for the uncommitteds there. So, yeah, 7,000 votes there with only 60% counted, so they'll probably get a few thousand more out of there. Looking like they got 100,000 cleared easily. And depending on what the showing is in the rest of Wayne County, because we obviously have a very small sample there, they could get to 150, which would be an amazing turnout. Old Nosy, love you too, Jews. Saw you on JD and have become a huge fan. Thank you, Old Nosy. From Michigan here. I hate that U of M colors happen to be Ukrainian. Yes, the blue and yellow, University of Michigan. Kenman, thanks for the $6.99. Brother Cornell spewing brother word salad of brother bullshit. Thank you, Kenman. Appreciate that.
He's a jazz man.
Jazzman, thank you, Sam. West admits U.S. NATO is the oppressive and imperialistic power, but says he admires Navalny for fighting oppression. Shouldn't he admire Russia Putin then for directly opposing U.S. and NATO? Well, this is what I mean. He gets his information from the corporate media and doesn't question it. It's very obvious. It's very obvious he heard one or two sentences about who Navalny was, and he decided to tweet that out. And, the RBN guys were far from the only ones to actually call him out for that. And like I said, the very easy thing to do is just take the loss. It happens. Just take the loss.
Look, I'll be frank, because this happened with Marianne too. I think with RBN, you got a lot of people. With Marianne, it was really glaring because she was this very rich white woman. But I think it's the same with Cornell. I think some of these politicians who go on with RBN, they see these working class black men in this activist space, and they want to be able to use the credibility that they could give them by being supporters. And then when they don't get that blind support, they almost seem to expect them to be really appreciative and they expect them to be Kyle and Crystal with Marianne. They expect them to do that and just kiss their ass and support their campaign. And then when they don't, their classism comes out because immediately there's a tone of they're not civilized, right? That's the underlying tone that Marianne had.
Right. They have no business talking to us in this way. Right.
Yeah, that's the tone Cornell has. Rather than to directly engage with the critique, it goes right to ad hominem dismissal of the source.
Right, indeed. P. Walker, you think West runs his social media accounts? Whether he does or not, he was very, very adamant about defending this tweet.
He defended it, so it's irrelevant.
In person, indeed. Yeah. Also, Bree was embarrassing. No tweet on Gonzalo Lira. You mean she should have asked him that, or did she not tweet about that?
I don't know what thumbnail you used for her, but somebody said I must have picked it, so it must be a bad one.
Oh yeah. Not petty. It's a matter of principle. We don't support fascists. Thank you, Janice Anderson, or say positive things about them. Once you do, you make yourself a class enemy. Thank you, Janice.
Thank you, Janice. I like
Black Thoughts. Cornell is a usual black Democrat shill. I wouldn't say usual black Democrat shill, but I do think it's I wouldn't say it in that charged a way. But what I would say is that if you notice, those 5 states he's on the ballot he's on the ballot in already. None of them are swing states. None of them yet.
Somebody said. I mean, most people agreed. But somebody said, well, anybody can get a Klimt print. And okay, so come on, man. There's a certain kind of person. It's very bourgeois. They love to put up those fucking prints of it's never an obscure artist. It's always the very acceptable ones. It's never an obscure print. It's always an iconic print. And they love to put up the Klimt and the Monet print that matches the wallpaper in the bathroom. And it's a form of class signaling. That is exactly what that is. Why you're so fucking crazy about that Klimt? It's not. There are definitely worse paintings. I mean, it's not bad, but why you're crazy about it? It's signaling a certain pseudo sophistication to have that in the background.
See, this is what I mean. He picks fights. So what are you arguing with people about fucking Monet and Klimt for? You know what I mean? This is what I mean.
No.
This is what I mean. You let things get to you that should.
No, I don't. I don't even.
We have a few Monet stands in the chat. So what? Let it go. You don't have to let everything get to you.
No, but I think it's an interesting thing to interrogate because we all know these people. You go in their house, they got the fucking Monet, they got the fucking Seurat over there. It's a certain kind of cultural signaling.
All right, you think it's interesting to interrogate? See, I don't. I don't interrogate those things. But that's the difference. We're two different people. That's okay. Black Freud.
Not on Thursdays.
The West mess was never more than ill-conceived vanity play. I'm wondering if he is an alphabet agency plan to disrupt third-partyism. What reason could there be? No, the reason is just he's not politically minded. You know, I mean, he doesn't have the skill set for this. I mean, that was pretty obvious from jump. And then when he switched to the Greens, we thought, all right, maybe this can work because he'll have the organization either behind him or he'll be able to change the organization to be more formidable. But yeah, no, I don't think he's a plant. I think he is just very, very bad at this. And I think that has shown. Thank you, Black Freud. Dwayne Vogel, West is a petty, arrogant thing.
Black Freud, man, I sent you an email to get together. I'm going back out there, man. Got to go to
there you go.
We got to go to In-N-Out Burger, brother.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. Because he's out in L.A. Yeah. And you tried.
Yeah, we were supposed to get together. I mean, it was my fault. Like I mean, not really. I was so fucking busy, but then I tried to do it the last minute.
Ah, got it. Okay. End summer, West is saying vote a Dem full sellout. That's your prediction? All right, we'll register that. We'll see. If Cornel West can't even run a campaign, why does he expect us to believe he could run his hypothetical future administration? Thank you. And just my opinion, thanks for the $6.99. Sometimes you can't succeed till you learn your weaknesses to get past yourself. Yeah, no, I mean, you just saw in this whole episode has just shown a complete lack of self-awareness and he is not humble. If you're humble, you just take the loss. Hey, I was wrong. Sorry. How hard is that to do? That's it. Easy. All right, Jake, we can take that off the screen. Thank you very much. All right, folks. Well, that is it for the YouTube segments. We still have 2 more segments to do over on Rumble. We're running a little behind, but not too bad this evening. So you can go to dudissidents.com/Rumble and continue the show with us. We thank you all very much for being here. We have 1566 in the YouTube chat right now, 1481 over on Rumble. So some of you guys are already over there. We hope you will all go to our Rumble stream to finish out the show with us. We got 2 great segments coming up that we're very excited to do over there on Aaron Bushnell and Jon Stewart. And so we will take Rumble rants over on the other side. But right now we are going to take a 5-minute break to give you all a chance to get over to West Berlin. And so we will see you all there in 5 minutes. If we don't see you more tonight, if you're going to call it a night, which you shouldn't, you should come and hang out with us more. Patron show tomorrow, 8 p.m. For those who are signed up, patreon.com/DoDissidents. And Thursday morning, 9 a.m., we will be back here on the main channel. We'll see you all in 5 minutes. Until then, of course, be safe and be well.
Courage. That was almost not bad kung fu dubbing.
Not bad. All right, folks. We'll see you in 5 minutes. Follow that link.
Please clap.